Good morning, this is Kris Shoemaker, also known as Yehudah ben Shomeyr, and you're listening to Coffee with Kris, the time of the day where we share a cup of coffee and share a bit of the Word of God. It's a new week, it's a new Torah portion. We are in the Torah portion of Tazria, which means she conceived, and it's taken from Leviticus chapter 12, verse 1, all the way to chapter 13, verse 39. It's a relatively short Torah portion this week on account of it being a leap year, and today our section is Leviticus chapter 12, verses 1 through 8. And the title of this devotional is Poor Yet Pure. Poor Yet Pure. Sometimes we wish we had more money because we could serve God better with more money, but we need to be content with the lot that we're in, and we need to make use of what we have. Nobody is ever too poor to serve God. God does not require money, riches, and wealth in order to serve him. He just requires whatever you have presently. So let's get right into the text. In Leviticus chapter 12 it says, "Then Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Bnei Israel, speak to the children of Israel, instructing, if a woman conceives and bears a male child." Now just remember, all these laws are in connection with the tabernacle and the temple and the appropriate sacrifices that are to be brought when a male or female child is born. Since we don't live in Israel, since there's no temple standing, we don't do this anymore. We won't be doing this until the third temple is rebuilt, if you live in the land of Israel. So it says, "Speak to Bnei Israel, instructing, if a woman conceives and bears a male child, then she will be unclean for 7 days." Doesn't say that she'll be evil. Doesn't say that she'll be reviled. It means that she'll be unclean. Guess what? We're all unclean at one point or another in our life. Unclean does not mean sin. Unclean is a state of being. Unclean is not a spiritual state where you're holy or you're sinful. It doesn't mean that a woman's sinful. So don't get that word unclean confused with the word sin. So it says, then she will be unclean for 7 days, as in the days of her nidah. Nidah is the Hebrew word for her menstrual month, for her time of the month. She will be unclean as in the days of her nidah. In the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin is to be circumcised. So that's the circumcision of the male child. She must wait during the blood of purification for 33 days. She is not to touch anything holy, no holy thing, nor come into the sanctuary. So basically this is just saying that, she can't touch like a tefillin or a prayer shawl, or, go to the temple or anything like that, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purification are completed. This is to allow the woman to have some rest and recuperation after the strenuous birth of this male child. Verse 5, "But if she bears a female child, then she will be unclean for 2 weeks." Wait, what? I mean, how come the longer for the female child? Because the female child represents the mother. So, I'm not sure if people are aware of this, but when a female child is born, sometimes a female child will spot and bleed, just like a grown woman. And anybody who's had a daughter and changed their diaper the first time and saw blood and freaked out, you'll know exactly what I mean. So it says, "But if she bears a female child, then she will be unclean for 2 weeks, as in her nidah," because she's unclean for herself as well as for her child. "And she will wait to the blood of purification for 66 days. When the days of her purification are completed for a son or for a daughter, she is to bring to the Kohen, to the priest, at the entrance of the tent of meeting, a year-old lamb for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon and or turtle dove for a sin offering. He is to present it before Adonai to make atonement for her." Then, atonement is made whenever blood is shed, whether it's blood by giving life through childbearing, or it's blood, through violence and warfare. A sacrifice, an atoning sacrifice, needs to be made. So it says, all right, a year-old lamb for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering. He is to present it before Adonai to make atonement for her. Then she will be cleansed from her discharge of blood. So she will be clean. Not that she's holy, not that she's not sinful. She will be clean. In other words, she will be ready and prepared to participate in religious life once again. Putting on the prayer shawl, being able to go to the temple or synagogue or what have you. This is the Torah. This is the law for her who gives birth, whether to a male or female child. Now, this is the verse I want to focus in on. If she cannot afford a lamb, she is to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. Then the Kohen will make atonement for her, and she will be clean. So, you're supposed to bring a lamb, but that's only if you're wealthy. That's only if you could afford a lamb, because livestock back then, as well as today, is quite expensive. But birds have been and are still relatively inexpensive. So if you're a poor person and you can't afford a lamb, you are to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. Now, is there somebody that we know who could not afford a lamb for her purification? Do, 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 do. Thanks for playing. I'll give you the answer. It's found in Luke chapter 2. It's Miriam, the mother of Jesus, the mother of Yeshua. Mary and Joseph were poor people, but they didn't excuse themselves from fulfilling God's instructions, God's laws, God's commandments. It says in Luke chapter 2, verses 21 through 24, when 8 days have passed for his Brit Milah, for his circumcision, it's talking about Yeshua, he was named Yeshua, which means God's salvation. He was named Yeshua, the name given by the angel before he was conceived in the womb. And when the days of her purification were fulfilled, how many did we learn in Leviticus chapter 12? For a male child, it's 33 days. So 33 days later, according to the Torah of Moses, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to Adonai. This was the Jewish form of a baby dedication. As it is written in the Torah of Adonai, every firstborn male that opens the womb shall be called holy to Adonai. And that is found in Exodus 12, or Exodus 13:2, 13:12, and 13:15. So, verse 24, this is what she offered. So they offered a sacrifice according to what was said in the Torah of Adonai, a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. So even the Messiah himself, his family, was poor. And just because you're poor doesn't mean that you can't serve the Lord. You just serve the Lord to the best of your ability with what you got, and God will bless your efforts, and God will bless what you have, and he will be the one that will give the increase as a result and because of your obedience. So serve God to the best of your ability with what you got. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great week. Shalom and God bless.